Discover the incredible moment when a vet uncovers a hidden miracle after 3 surprising births. Jake Thompson stood on the porch of his small ranch, the sun inching its way behind the horizon, casting long shadows over the fields he swore felt like home, despite the turmoil inside him. The day had been filled with laughter and joy. Maggie had given birth to their beautiful daughter, Lily, bringing light to their dim days. Yet beneath the surface of his smiles, Jake wrestled with a poignant grief, an ever-hungry beast that lurked in the corners of his mind, PTSD, screaming memories from a past he fought desperately to forget. He should have felt joy, yet all he could sense was suffocating dread. Was he deserving of this family? These 3 small lives he was meant to protect? He glanced back into the house, his heart heavy with uncertainty. Danny's bright giggle echoed like a distant call to adventure, while Emma plopped down beside her newborn sister, awash with curiosity. But all Jake could picture was the chaos of combat, the shouts of men, and the sounds of life extinguished. A wave of heat surged through him as he wiped the sweat from his brow, turning to the unfinished work on the ranch. He poured himself into heaving bales of hay and tending to the horses, the physical exertion grounding him amidst the storm of emotions swirling in his chest. But escape was fleeting. Each horseshoe he struck served as a reminder of his broken pieces, shattered dreams that taunted him under the guise of work. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. His shoulders tightened at the thought of Sam, the neighbor who didn't care to mask his prejudice against veterans. Each whiff of disdain stung as deeply as any bullet. How could a man like him, who faced the horrors of war with tenacity, now struggle to prove his worth at home? With each passing day, Jake felt the relentless pressure of needing to be both a soldier and a father, and he was terrified of failing at both. Underneath it all lay a flicker of hope, almost unbearably bright. A chance discovery lingered in his mind. An old newspaper clipping he'd stumbled upon in the library that whispered promises of a hidden treasure linked to his grandfather. It was an epiphany tainted by anxiety. What if uncovering his family's history would only serve to remind him of what he had lost? As he weighed his next steps, the stakes felt consequential. He had dreams for his children, yet as the bills piled up and tension brewed in their once harmonic home, the burden bore down. Uncertainty, that dark cloud of impending doom, coiled tightly around his chest. Would searching for his grandfather's legacy yield redemption, or only fracture the delicate foundation of his family? The thrill of discovery danced with the specter of risk, taunting him with vivid imagery of a potentially disastrous journey. With his children watching, their innocence waiting for him to light the way, Jake stood at the edge of decision. Would he face Sam, seeking confrontation and validation? Or would he dive headfirst into a past woven with quiet mysteries? The future lay shrouded in challenge and choices, and there was no turning back now. Jake was trapped, poised between the tempest of his memories and the haunting promise of family legacy. What would he uncover? Only time would reveal the depths of his turmoil. Jake awoke the next morning, the mantle of responsibility heavier than ever. The warmth that enveloped him felt more like a shroud, stifling his resolve. He had promised himself the night before that today would be different. He'd choose action over hesitation, face his demons instead of letting them linger. As he bounded down the stairs, the cries of Lily filled the air, a stark reminder of life's fragile beauty. Breakfast was a chaotic symphony of laughter, spilled cereal, and Emma's adorable attempts to soothe her younger sister. Yet amidst the simplicity of family, Jake's thoughts wandered toward the hidden treasure, an echo of his grandfather's legacy, slowly igniting a flicker of courage within him. Could this search hold the potential to heal the rift he felt between his past and present? Perhaps it would serve as a conduit, bridging the gap of his fractured spirit and a warrior's heart. Even as the comfort of home swirled around him, he sensed the familiar fingers of anxiety gripping at his throat. Sam's disdainful remarks from yesterday rang in his ears, a constant reminder that he had more to prove than just his worth as a father. The confrontation loomed larger now. Instead of shying away, he resolved to face it head-on. Fueled by purpose, Jake set out to find that old newspaper clipping once more. He needed specifics before embarking on what felt like both a treasure hunt and a pilgrimage of self-discovery. The library became a refuge of sorts, filled with dusty volumes that smelled of old paper and forgotten stories. His fingers danced over the rows of books until they found it, the brittle slip of paper. Words danced before him, a breadcrumb trailing into the depths of the past, enticing yet daunting. Jake clung to the clipping tightly, contemplating the details. It spoke of an estate that had been lost to time and a fortune possibly buried somewhere near the ranch. Could this be his moment to turn the tides, proving not just to Sam but also to himself that he was deserving of success? Yet doubt clawed back, whispering dark scenarios of failure. As he stepped outside, the air crackled with potential. He paused, inhaling deeply, grounding himself in the serene vista of green that surrounded his property. Today was not just about treasure. It was about seeking a personal transformation, discovering a part of himself he had buried beneath layers of self-doubt. He climbed into his truck, the engine's roar breaking the stillness of early morning. Drive, he thought. Drive until he found something. The wheels rolled over familiar terrain, the dust rising like whispered history beneath his tires. Each bump and curve reminded him of moments he'd experienced with Maggie and the kids, all of which motivated him to dig deeper into his history. As he approached the rumored location of the estate, unease settled in like an unwelcome guest. But there was a budding sense of determination as well. What treasures awaited him? Would they be material, or simply the revelation of his family's past? He envisioned walking back home with newfound richness, both tangible and intangible, ready to share these discoveries with his family, a new legacy for Lily, Danny, and Emma. But as he drew closer, he noticed a familiar figure lingering at the edge of the property, a silhouette stark against the horizon. It was Sam. The confrontation he had resigned himself to face now loomed ahead like a storm cloud ready to unleash fury. In that moment of unresolved tension, Jake felt his heart race. Would he engage in a battle of wills, or would he try to rise above? Whichever path he chose, one thing remained clear. The decisions he made today would shape not just his journey, but the narrative of generations that followed. As he stepped out, the air thick with anticipation, Jake realized that today was but the beginning of a much deeper struggle. Would he dig up buried secrets, or unearth a buried past? In the end, only courage would lead him home. The moment Jake stepped out of the truck, Sam's presence loomed heavy. Each step toward him felt saturated with a mix of dread and anticipation. Jake's heart hammered in his chest, an insistent reminder of the confrontation he had been avoiding. He willed his feet to advance, pushing through the suffocating weight of doubt. "Jake!" Sam's voice, low and loaded with unspoken grievances, sliced through the stillness like a knife. The accusation hung in the air, a palpable tension that only amplified Jake's resolve. It was time to discover whether the bond of their shared history could deflect this new conflict. "Sam," Jake replied, trying to maintain a steadiness he did not feel. He could see Sam's eyes flicker with skepticism, as if he were assessing every piece of Jake's character laid bare before him. "You really think you can take on this search?" Sam challenged, the sharpness of his tone echoing the failures Jake had felt for too long. "What makes you think you deserve it?" Each word struck like precision arrows aimed at Jake's fragile self-esteem. Accessing the reservoir of vulnerability within him, he locked eyes with Sam, determined not to falter. "I'm not here to prove anything to you. This is about family, and a legacy I want to understand. It's time to move beyond what's been said and done." Sam's brow furrowed, a mix of anger and something deeper, perhaps regret, played across his features. The air between them thickened into a tangible barrier. Jake recognized that this was not merely a personal confrontation, but a chance to wrestle with the ghosts of their shared past, filled with unbridled ambition, resentment, and unfulfilled dreams. "I'll be damned if you pull another stunt and embarrass us all," Sam shot back, incredulity weaving through his disdain. The venom in his remarks made Jake's stomach twist. He questioned whether this battle was worth enduring, yet beneath his turmoil, a flicker of defiance ignited. "I'm not trying to embarrass anyone. I want to find out what really happened," Jake challenged, steeling himself against the storm of confrontation. "It'll lead you nowhere. You've got no talent for this," Sam taunted. And with each word, Jake's mind raced, deploying defensive walls around his heart. But he knew he had to advance, both for himself and for his family, for the children who were too young to witness this division. Hesitation slinked back, overshadowed by the burning need to forge a new narrative. Jake took a step closer, voice laced with a shaky conviction. His past failures didn't define him. Perhaps the journey he was about to embark upon would. "You can keep the judgment, Sam, but I refuse to let your negativity shape my future. This is more than treasure. It's about rediscovering who I am, where I come from." In this moment of vulnerability, Jake uncovered a dormant facet of himself, a resilience he had thought lost to time. He felt the pulsating strength of his lineage, calling him forth, challenging him to defy lower expectations. What he didn't know was whether Sam would ever understand or share this awakening. Sam remained quiet, his expression wavering between disgust and intrigue. The silence stretched, fractured by an unease that crackled in the air. Jake took a breath, hoping to close the widening chasm between them. Suddenly, a flicker of doubt surfaced in Jake's mind. Would pursuing this quest bring clarity, or further complicate his already strained relationship with Sam? Underlying both their ambitions was a determination to find solidarity in their family's fractured legacy. As Jake finally turned away, ready to head deeper into the estate's overgrown surroundings, he felt a mixture of trepidation and excitement. Today was supposed to be a confrontation, but deep within him, he knew it was a crucible of transformation. The crossroads lay ahead, illuminated by the path that began this journey. Would he return with proof of his family's history, or uncover more shadows than he had anticipated? Only by continuing onward would he discover what awaited him buried beneath the layers of soil and resentment. Armed with newfound resolve, Jake set foot on the uncharted land ahead, a simmering question pulsing in his veins. What if finding the treasure was only the beginning of uncovering a greater truth about himself? As Jake delved deeper into the remnants of the estate, the air shifted around him, laden with a mix of decay and hope. The tangled vines and overgrown roots mirrored his own internal chaos, each step a wrestling match against doubt and fear. What had been a mere quest for answers had transformed into a pursuit of identity, a rediscovery of who he was outside of Sam's shadow. Every rustle of leaves seemed to beckon him closer to something hidden, something elusive. He took meticulous note of the fading path markers, directing him toward what he hoped would be the treasure, but he felt it was more than material wealth. This place carried a history he was desperate to understand, one buried under years of disappointment and unmet expectations. Jake crouched beside a weathered oak, whose gnarled roots cut through the earth like ancient fingers reaching for something deeper. As he ran his hand over the rough bark, memories blurred with reality. Flashes of childhood laughter and tales passed down under the starlit sky. Those moments had been tinged with adventure, dreams of something greater than this. A life not dictated by Sam's critique but forged by his own choices. Rising to his feet, he pressed onward. The grounds were expansive, yet Jake felt paradoxically enclosed by memories that reminded him of his constant inadequacies. Yet with each stride, he embraced a flicker of purpose. This journey to reclaim his family's narrative was not merely an act of defiance against Sam, but rather a foundational venture into self-understanding. The dilapidated garden shed ahead captured his attention. It appeared forgotten, overrun by nature, but there was something compelling about it. As he investigated, the door creaked under pressure, resisting his push like an old grudge refusing to be resolved. With a final effort, he forced it open. Dust cascaded around him like confetti from a long-forgotten celebration. Inside, he was greeted by a cavern of shadows, littered with remnants of a life once vibrant. Old tools lay scattered, forgotten like dreams turned sour. But amidst the chaos, his gaze fell on a dusty leather-bound book, its spine cracked and pages yellowing. As he opened it, the scent of aged paper filled his senses, offering a glimpse into the lives lived before him. He flipped through, seeing sketches of family trees, notes written in an elegant hand, and descriptions of past adventures. These were the stories that tied him to his ancestors, emotions painting their lives beyond mere dates and names. Here was the passion for exploration, the same energy he felt stirring within himself. Suddenly, he stopped at a page filled with a map. Inked paths trailed across landscapes he had never known, leading to symbols that sparked his curiosity. Could these markers indicate the treasure he sought, the key to unlocking understanding of his family's legacy? Jake's heart raced. He felt a magnetic pull towards the promise of discovery, and for the first time the ground beneath him felt stable, his footing purposeful. This wasn't just about legacy. This was about becoming who he was meant to be, embracing both the successes and failures that defined him. However, with the map folded and tucked securely in his pocket, a gnawing thought pricked at the edges of his optimism. What if Sam's skepticism bore truth? What if this didn't lead to redemption, but merely deepened existing rifts? Determined to mitigate those fears, Jake made a pact with himself. He would not allow fear to govern his journey. This quest was about agency and reclaiming the narrative he had forfeited for too long. With a flicker of newfound determination igniting within him, Jake stepped away from the shed, moving toward an uncertain horizon. The path ahead held promise and peril, yet one truth resonated clearly in his mind. He was no longer just a reflection of Sam's disappointment. He was becoming the architect of his own destiny. Ahead lay the unknown, and with it the potential for transformation rested firmly in his hands. Would he be bold enough to confront whatever awaited him and redefine what it meant to be a part of this family? Jake felt the weight of the map pressing against his thigh as he ventured away from the shed, a linked chain to his past and a compass for his future. The gnarled pathways wound beneath a canopy of green, the canopy filtering rays of afternoon sunlight that danced like specters among the underbrush. With each step, the world around him blurred, and his thoughts zeroed in on what the markings might reveal. He paused to study the map, tracing the parchment with his fingers. The symbols were uncanny, configurations that hinted at landmarks he had never noticed before during his childhood explorations in the estate. Not far from the shed, an X marked a spot shaded in deep green. His heart raced with the promise of discovery, but doubt nipped at the edges of his thoughts. What if the excitement was a fleeting illusion? What if this moment ended like the others before, with him retreating back into the shadows of compliance and disappointment? Determination rekindled inside him as he folded the map and stuffed it back into his pocket. He glanced across the landscape, searching for the first of the landmarks. The first was a copse of trees on the horizon, a line of towering sentinels, their branches interlocked like arms embracing a secret. With each stride, Jake confronted the swell of possibilities that surged within him. The undercurrent of fear whispered of doubts and failures, but it clashed with a burgeoning courage that felt foreign yet exhilarating. This journey wasn't merely about treasure, it was about forging a path carved from his expectations, unearthing strength he had predominantly overlooked. He questioned what stories the symbols would yield, and who he would become in the aftermath. As he arrived at the grove, its ambiance shifted around him, resonating with memories of family narratives that had always seemed out of reach. The leaves whispered tales of adventures, of trials faced and victories celebrated long before he was a thought. In that space, Jake felt a softening of his stoic demeanor, a slight vulnerability unfurling, a longing not just for treasure but for connection, both to his history and to himself. He stepped into the grove, the shadows playing tricks on his mind, and for a moment he felt overwhelmed. The pull of the past collided with the promise of liberation. Was he truly ready for what lay ahead? However, the echo of his pact re-emerged. He had decided to confront fear, to redefine himself amidst the inheritance of his family's legacy. After navigating past the trees, Jake stumbled upon a broken stone pillar partially obscured by tangled vines. The pillar stood as a remnant of something grand, catching his breath in its aged command. As he approached, he noticed inscriptions carved into the stone, obscured by moss yet gleaming with a promise of sentiment. Each mark seemed to hum with energy, as if calling out to engage and provoke reflection. He reached out to brush the moss aside, exposing the words, "Courage is the compass. Love is the path." A chill raced through him at the gravity of those declarations, as if they had been etched directly for him, intended to guide his journey. But before he could process the weight of those words, a rustle shattered the silence. Instinctively, Jake turned, confronting a figure emerging from behind the trees. An elderly woman, her hair wild like sunlit clouds, approached with an intensity that held secrets of its own. Her presence was simultaneously grounding and unsettling, a reminder that the past often encroached upon the present in unpredictable ways. She stood there for a moment, eyes piercing as if she could see the very fabric of his being. Words hung between them, thickening the air with anticipation. What could she possibly know about his journey? The vibrant pulse of experience electrified the space, and the urgency to speak, to share revelations, seemed imminent. "Are you ready to hear the truth about your family?" she questioned, her voice a blend of warmth and challenge. Jake's heart raced. This moment could shift everything he had come to seek, igniting questions that lay dormant in his mind. But with it arose the unrelenting fear of what that truth might entail. He felt a turning point brewing, one that demanded courage he wasn't sure he possessed. As he opened his mouth, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, he recognized this was not just a quest for external treasure, but also an invitation to confront the very core of his identity. The truth beckoned like a siren, echoing through the wilderness. But was he prepared to unveil the layers of complexity tied to his lineage and ultimately to himself? The air crackled with uncertainty. This was just the beginning of a deeper discovery, and Jake was forced to confront the raw, uncharted territories of his own heart. The silence that enveloped them felt like an eternity, stretched thin by the weight of unspoken truths hanging between Jake and the elderly woman. Her gaze, sharp and knowing, seemed to penetrate the defenses he had built around his heart. The earth beneath his feet felt solid, yet Jake sensed a tremor in his foundation. A reckoning was barreling toward him. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper, suspicion colliding with curiosity. He hadn't anticipated encountering anyone, let alone someone who appeared to hold the keys to his history. "I am the keeper of stories," she replied slowly, her words laced with gravitas. "Your family has a legacy that is stitched into the very fabric of this land. You stand on the brim of revelations that could transform everything you believe to be true about yourself." Her assertion ignited a whirlwind of questions within him. Who had she been to his family? What stories weighed heavily on her tongue that threatened to unravel the narrative he'd been told? Yet beneath his apprehension lay an ember of eagerness. Perhaps this was the time to unearth the layers of his lineage, the very essence that had shaped him. As the breeze shifted, whispering through the leaves, Jake found himself engulfed in memories. The laughter from family gatherings, the warmth of connection he had often dismissed in pursuit of external validation. "What do you mean by legacy? What does it involve?" The woman's expression softened, revealing a flicker of compassion. "Pain and joy, resilience and heartache. Nothing about your family's journey is singular. It is a tapestry woven with trials that have tested the very essence of their character. It rests upon you now to embrace not just the glory, but also the shadows of what came before." Jake found himself grappling with her words, trying to synthesize the enormity of uncovering his ancestry. The potential for discomfort filled him with trepidation, but there was an undeniable pull to learn. What hidden strengths might he discover, buried beneath his own insecurities? "Can you show me? Can you tell me?" he pressed, each syllable laced with desperation and longing. His heart beat rapidly, each thud echoing his need for validation, for purpose. "This journey will require more than mere curiosity, Jake. It demands vulnerability. It will challenge you to face who you truly are, not just the fragments you wish to possess," she replied, her voice now a mere whisper, as if the forest itself needed to be soothed by the gravity of her message. In that moment, the truth of her words pierced through his hesitation like a ray of sunlight through dark clouds. Jake understood that this was not just an invitation to hear stories, but a call to integrate them into his being. It was an opportunity to reflect on the lessons learned and the hardships endured, stretching back generations. What if I discover something terrible? The fear slipped out, raw and unadulterated. Then you will have a choice, she said simply, the profound nature of her answer resonating deeply within him. You can allow it to define you, or you can harness it to forge your path forward. The heart of courage often lies in embracing the uncomfortable. Jake felt the tension tighten around his chest, battling between the heavy potential of the truth and the transformative power of choice. The sun dropped lower in the sky, casting long shadows that danced eerily across the grove, mirroring the turmoil within him. Will you come with me? He asked suddenly, an unexpected sense of conviction guiding his words. Will you help me uncover this legacy? A smile creased her weathered face, a mix of approval and respect. The path may twist, and the shadows will ebb and flow, but yes, I will guide you. But remember, it is a journey meant for your heart, one that will ultimately lead you to not just understand your family, but to discover the man you are destined to become. Jake took a deep breath, resolving to embrace the uncertainty. As he looked into the woman's eyes, something inside him shifted. A crack appeared in the armor he had worn for so long. Maybe uncovering the past wouldn't just be about unveiling secrets, but rather understanding the raw, unyielding essence of who he was. What's our first step? He asked, determination flickering like a flame in the abyss of uncertainty. Follow me, she smiled, her voice echoing softly against the trees as she began to lead the way deeper into the uncharted woods. With each stride forward, Jake felt the weight of his past intertwining with the fervent hope of his future. For the first time, he yearned not only for clarity but for connection, to his lineage, to his journey, and as the path unfolded, he realized that perhaps the greatest treasure he would discover was not out there in the wilderness, but rather within the depths of his own heart. As he stepped over the threshold of the unknown, an instinct blared within him. He was ready to confront everything his legacy embodied. But before he could even fathom what revelations awaited, an ominous rustling in the underbrush sent his senses into high alert, reminding him that he was not alone in this expansive narrative of discovery. Was this the interference of the past he was meant to confront? The next turn in his journey could lead to unexpected allies or unforeseen antagonists, and he felt an urgent thrill course through him as the truth awaited just beyond the next foliage. Jake's heartbeat quickened as he instinctively scanned the area around him. The rustling, muffled yet insistent, coiled around his nerves, pulling him deeper into a mental whirlpool. Standing at the precipice of his legacy, he realized that his readiness to confront the past now extended beyond personal reflections. It transformed into a need for vigilance. He looked back at the woman, who remained unfazed, a stoic guardian amidst the creeping shadows. "What is it?" he asked, urgency and trepidation mingling in his voice. "Sometimes the fiercest truths are cloaked in the unknown," she replied, her gaze steady. "To discover your legacy, you must first confront the fear of its manifestations." Jake's mind raced. This fear wasn't just an abstract concept. Instead, it felt palpable, as if the forest itself trembled in anticipation of the revelations that were about to unfold. The mysteries of his lineage swirled inside him, competing with his instinct to flee from the encroaching noise. Taking a long breath, he tried to ground himself. What did he truly want? Was the promise of understanding worth the fear of discovering unpleasant truths? As the rustling grew louder, the woman stepped forward, beckoning Jake to follow with brittle yet inviting confidence. He hesitated, aware that moments like this held the potential to build or demolish the framework of who he believed he was. It occurred to him then that this journey wasn't purely about seeking reassurance. It was about confronting the complexities of his own narrative, dark and light alike. The underbrush parted, revealing a path worn down by footsteps from those who came before him. Jake gathered his trembling resolve and stepped forward, curiosity defeating fear. They navigated deeper into the woods, each footfall echoing like a heartbeat against the silence around them. "What equipment do I need for this journey?" he asked, sparking both their minds as they ventured further from the safety of the grove. "For now you carry only your will," she answered cryptically. "The burdens you think define you become light when embraced, not conquered." Her words echoed in his mind, raising questions about his past. that sense of inadequacy that had always lingered like a persistent shadow. Was it possible that acknowledging the full extent of his family's story could dissolve the weight he had long carried? As they traversed through the thickening trees, Jake imagined each branch as a story, each leaf a character interwoven into his ancestry. Excitement churned in his gut alongside apprehension. What if he found hidden capabilities or unexpected strength within familial ties? Abruptly, a snap echoed through the woods, causing him to freeze. Jake turned to the woman, searching her face for reassurance. "What was that?" he questioned, dread gnawing at his insides. "Prepare yourself," she said, her voice now laced with urgency. "Our journey leads to a confrontation. Not all spirits are gentle." She paused, allowing the implications of her words to settle over him like a mist. Would he meet someone from his past? A distant relative? Or perhaps a malevolent force guarding the truths he sought to uncover? Before he could question further, an imposing figure emerged from the shadows, eyes glinting with an unsettling curiosity. The weight of the encounter descended upon Jake like a stone, colliding with the resolve he had just begun to muster. It was time to face what lay before him, no matter how disconcerting. As the figure stepped closer, Jake felt an unmistakable shift. Nothing would ever be the same. Would he emerge from this truth-seeking quest empowered and enlightened? Or would he be swallowed by the shadows of his lineage? The trajectory of his evolution hung suspended in the air, waiting for him to take that crucial step into the unknown. And with that looming presence before him, he instinctively understood. He was not merely uncovering the past, he was on the precipice of defining his future. What awaited him in this confrontation could either become the key to his liberation, or the anchor of his despair. Jake felt every muscle tighten as the shadowy figure stepped into the light, revealing a face etched with lines of history and weariness. The fear that washed over him was rational, grounded in the instinct that this person was tied to the hidden truths he sought, truths that had shaped him but remained just beyond reach. "Who are you?" he managed, the tremor in his voice betraying his resolve. A thin smile stretched across the figure's face, stirring a buried sense of familiarity in Jake. "You don't recognize me, do you?" "That's understandable," the figure said cryptically, the timbre of their voice sending an unsettling shiver up Jake's spine. "Oh, but there's much to unravel, isn't there?" They stepped closer, bringing a scent of damp earth and aged secrets. That unyielding gaze pierced through Jake, as if they could see the very essence of his fears and doubts laid bare. Despite his trepidation, Jake felt an undeniable pull toward the figure. Perhaps it was a connection that had been dormant, a thread woven through the fabric of his lineage that had yet to be inspected. "I'm here to find out my past," he declared, trying to summon the courage that had dwindled since they ventured into the woods. "The past? Or perhaps your place in it? Legacy is shaped by the choices we make in shadowy moments, not only in the light," the figure responded, their words a stark echo of the woman's earlier wisdom. Recognition flickered along the edges of Jake's consciousness. "You're family, aren't you?" The figure's lips quirked, amusement dancing in their eyes. "A distant relation, yes. Enigmatic ties, bound by choices and silence. But I'll tell you this much, Jake. Understanding does not come without sacrifice." The weight of their message settled heavily on Jake. He had been prepared to explore his ancestry, to seek out the hidden potential that lay beneath years of obscured narratives. But was he ready to confront not only the truths, but also the implications of those truths? What sacrifices would he need to make, and were they worth the revelations? Jake's thoughts swirled, battering against one another in a frantic cacophony. "What do you want from me?" he finally asked, a flicker of defiance igniting within him. He realized this confrontation called for clarity over chaos. "To reenact the past, my dear," the figure replied, frustration mixed with intrigue swirling within their voice. "You'd be surprised how many forgotten stories linger, waiting for someone with the courage to confront their shadows." The figure extended their hand, a simple gesture yet heavy with unspoken obligations. The urge to step back wrestled with Jake's innate desire for connection, for understanding. He felt his heart thrumming wildly, echoing the tumult in his mind. Could he truly plunge into this unknown? Was the potential impact on his perception of himself and his family worth the uncertainty seeping into his bones? As he stood poised between protecting the pain of the past and embracing the lessons that awaited him, Jake realized this was about more than just discovery. It was about claiming his role in a long-forgotten narrative. He took a breath, trying to harness a sense of calm amidst the chaos. What kind of sacrifice? The figure's smile faded into an expression of somber seriousness. Truth has a price. Are you willing to pay it? With that question hanging in the air like a fragile thread, Jake faced the most critical decision of his life. The forest around him seemed to close in, the shadows looming ever larger, cradling myriad stories that demanded to be told. He took a step forward, feeling the weight of his choice settle into the pit of his stomach. This was not just about confronting family. It was about confronting himself. The moment stretched taut before him, anticipation swirling in the silence. Would he dive into the depths of his family's legacy, or retreat into the safety of ignorance? "Then let's begin," he said, his voice steadier than he felt, ready to unveil the truths lurking beneath the surface of his existence, unprepared for the shadows that would rise in response. And as he extended his hand toward the figure, he understood. He was crossing a threshold, on the cusp of awakening something profound within himself. But what awaited him on the other side could alter everything he held true. What truths about himself were entwined with the legacy he was finally prepared to unearth? The grip of the figure's hand was cooler than Jake anticipated, a bone-chilling contrast that sent jolts of awareness through him. As their fingers intertwined, a surge of energy coursed through the air, electrifying the dense forest around them. The world around him dimmed, and the familiar sounds of rustling leaves and distant bird calls faded into an echoing silence. Suddenly, a rush of images flooded Jake's mind, each more vivid than the last. Faces of strangers flashing before him, accompanied by emotions he couldn't quite grasp yet instinctively felt. Love, betrayal, sorrow. He staggered backward, wrenching his hand away, breathless. What was that? The figure watched him intently, a mixture of encouragement and expectation etched into their features. "That was just a taste. You are nearing the precipice of buried stories. There is more to this than you can understand, but I assure you, you have the strength to confront it." Jake's heart raced, the intertwining threads of his lineage unraveled before him, daunting yet strangely appealing. "Why now?" he asked, conscious of how desperate he sounded. "Why can't I remember? Why couldn't I have known this before?" His urgent pleas shattered the tranquil air surrounding them. In response, the figure took a deep breath, their eyes darkening as shadows cast by ancient trees danced in the fading light. "The past can be a heavy burden, Jake. Some truths are buried for a reason. Fear keeps them sealed away, but you have the courage to face what lies beneath." There was an odd familiarity in their words, wisdom born from profound understanding. He felt each syllable resonate within him, unveiling a determination he hadn't known existed. Each moment spent pondering his family's legacy steered him toward deeper motivations. Taking a cautious step forward, Jake's voice came out steadier. "I've always felt disconnected, strangers in my own home. Now it feels as if I'm standing at an edge, unsure whether to leap or retreat to safety." The figure's smile softened, a hint of pride flickering in their gaze. Embracing uncertainty is an integral part of growth. The decision to leap could lead to skills and strengths you never knew you possessed. "Skills?" Jake echoed, battling feelings of skepticism. What could he uncover that would change his path? "Every family possesses gifts, Jake. Unconventional talents often lie dormant, hidden under the layers of secrecy. But to access that potential, you must confront the very fears that keep you bound by ignorance. Each choice shapes your future." Were hidden talents truly tied to the family legacy? The thought filled him with cautious optimism, but doubt gnawed at his resolve. What if facing these shadows revealed something he wasn't prepared to accept? He remembered his father's fractured tales of family history, fragments of bravery intertwined with failure. And now, standing here, his lineage beckoned him, challenging his self-perception. "What must I do?" he asked, challenging the weight of the figure's gaze. First, You must face the memories that belong to you. They are scattered throughout this forest. The figure gestured to the thick woods surrounding them, treetops intertwined, as if concealing secrets he was meant to uncover. Only now did Jake realize how entangled his path was with those stories. As he contemplated plunging into the depths of his family's past, he felt a mixture of fear and exhilaration swell inside him. Would he suffer losses that could shatter his understanding of self? Was the potential for revelation worth risking that pain? "Remember, Jake," the figure cautioned, their tone taking on a grave inflection. "Sacrifices may come in forms you don't expect, but follow your intuition. It will guide you through the shadows, and you'll leave with a clearer vision of who you are meant to become." As their words settled in the quiet of the forest, Jake cast a lingering look around, anxiety shifting slowly into determination. What awaited him on this journey? He stepped forward, fully aware he was at a critical juncture, not just in his search for truth, but also in determining the essence of Jake as he moved forward into this exploration of intrafamily legacy. A shift in the air signaled the beginning. Striding into the depths of the woods, he felt a sudden urgency, one that signified the dawn of confrontations to emerge from the shadows he was now ready to unveil. But even as he pressed on, the question lingered. What hidden potentials lay waiting for him among the phantoms of his past? Jake stood at the threshold of revelation, ready to unravel the stories of his family's past. The forest loomed around him, thick with whispers of history and unheeded lessons. With each step forward, he felt the weight of doubt begin to dissipate, giving way to a burgeoning conviction. It was time to confront both the shadows lurking in his lineage and the brighter truths that would shape his future. The path twisted deeper into the woods, the air thick with a palpable energy that energized his weary spirit. Every rustle of leaves seemed to amplify his resolve. He was no longer a soldier bound by despair, but a seeker of wisdom. As he ventured further, the memories of his ancestors beckoned him, filling his mind with echoes of bravery, resilience, and an unbreakable spirit that had weathered storms of adversity. He soon stumbled upon a clearing, vibrant and alive, the sunlight filtering through tree branches, casting a mosaic of light upon the ground. In the center stood a weathered trunk that seemed untouched by time, each ring a testament to the years and stories encased within it. Jake approached it tentatively, his heart racing. Suddenly he understood. This was a symbol of his heritage, the foundation upon which his family's legacy had been built. Resting a hand on the trunk, he closed his eyes, allowing the gentle breeze to wash over him. In that moment, he felt an overwhelming wave of connection, the generations of struggles and triumphs coursing through him. He recalled the shared laughter around the dinner table, the warm embraces from Maggie during difficult moments, and the innocent giggles of Lily, Danny, and Emma, who deserved a father not so bound by his scars. He could no longer allow the shadows of his past to dictate the narrative. "I stand here ready to confront whatever lies ahead," he declared, voice echoing in the clearing. "I will honor this legacy and turn it into something meaningful. My children will know the true strength of their lineage." As the declaration left his lips, the shadows of doubt flickered around him, dissipating like mist under the sun. Jake felt a jolt of energy surge through his body. It was as if a dam had broken, allowing clarity and purpose to flow freely into his consciousness. He knew he possessed skills and strengths waiting to be unveiled. They were woven into the fabric of who he was meant to be. Emboldened, Jake turned to the figure still watching him from the shadows, the distant relative who had reminded him of the potency of legacy. "Show me the way to uncover these hidden gifts," he urged, a steady conviction in his voice. "I want to harness the potential my family has left me." The figure smiled, nodding appreciatively. "Follow your heart, and it will lead you through the tangled roots of your family's stories. Each revelation will grant you greater understanding of your place in this world. But remember, it will also require courage." Jake understood them now. He must face the complexities of his lineage head-on, without hesitation. He felt ready to delve deep into the layers of truth that might challenge his perception of self. This journey wasn't solely about uncovering material wealth or ancient secrets. It was about arriving at an understanding of who he truly was outside of fear and doubt. With a renewed sense of purpose, Jake stepped deeper into the woods, guided by a mix of intuitive insights and newfound confidence. He embraced each step as a manifestation of growth. These realizations were the treasures he had sought all along. As he wove through the trees, fragments of his family's story unfolded before him. Their victories, their struggles, their failures reshaping his narrative with every stride he took. Each experience he discovered acted like a mosaic piece, coming together to form a larger portrait of resilience and strength. Finally, emerging into another clearing, Jake faced a small stone marker, worn down by time yet engraved with the words truth and legacy. He smiled softly, finally recognizing that his family's history was as much about defeat as it was about triumph. Both were vital aspects of their shared experience. In this moment, he realized he had achieved something profound: acceptance. Jake turned to the figure beside him, confidence radiating from his being. "Thank you for guiding me. I'm ready to share these gifts with my family," he declared, voice unwavering. He would no longer see himself through Sam's lens of judgment, nor let the weight of war dictate his place within the family unit. He was ready to embrace the complexities of fatherhood, to instill in his children the strength that came from understanding one's roots. With newfound clarity, Jake began his journey home, heart swelling with purpose. He could feel the warmth of Maggie's embrace awaiting him, the laughter of his children eager for his return. He envisioned sharing stories of bravery, defeating fears of inadequacy, and blossoming through vulnerability. As he stepped beyond the confines of the woods, Jake's spirit soared. The legacy he uncovered would spark a transformation in himself, guiding each parenting decision, along with the lessons drawn from love and perseverance. Each stride toward home felt heavy with potential. Today he had forged a path of reclamation, stepping not only into his family's legacy but also into a future that was undeniably his own. The sun set elegantly over the horizon, casting a golden hue over Jake's ranch, each ray an affirmation of the journey he had taken. He stepped onto his porch, pausing for a moment to breathe in the twilight air. This was where he belonged, no longer battling against his past but embracing it, ready to cultivate a future rich not only in love but in understanding of identity. With that realization, he smiled. Today he was not just Jake Thompson, he was a son, a father, and a man reborn, not haunted by shadows, but illuminated by the strength of his story. Subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional journeys. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with friends who need inspiration. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and comment your thoughts and theories about Jake's transformation. You need to show your support, and every action counts in spreading these powerful tales.